weird and wonderful world of vintage synthesizers, the Korg DW-8000 is something of a hidden gem. Probably the best classic hybrid synth you've never heard. And they're not my words, they're from Adam Douglas in an article he wrote for Gear News. And it's a point of view that's difficult to argue with because it's not that common and it sounds great. It was released in 1985 and was designed to compete with the big names of the era, synths that cost twice as much. But it never sold in the volumes of digital synths like the DX7, which was released 2 years earlier in 1983. But it was well ahead of its time considering the Prophet VS and Waldorf Microwave, two other 80s hybrid synths, weren't released until 1986 and 1989 respectively. But it's nowhere near as revered as the other big hybrid synth of the day, the PPG Wave. But when you consider the price, it was around $1,300 compared to the PPG, which was between $7,000 and $10,000 depending on your configuration. So we're getting a similar method of synthesis. We've got 16 digital waveforms on 2 independent oscillators. We've got Korg's own NJM2069 analog filter, which sounds great, all playing through analog VCAs, and then a world first, an onboard digital delay, which also doubles as a chorus, all at less than 20% the price of a PPG. So it's no wonder it's managed to carve out a solid reputation all of its own, and no wonder it's become a bit of a cult classic with a growing number of die-hard fans in the vintage synth market. And as with everything else that was released within a couple of years of the DX7, this suffers from that uniquely 80s disease, minimal interface syndrome. We can see we've got all the parameters that we can access there, and to access a parameter, so you can access the programs or the parameters, got 2 oscillators playing there, so let's reduce the volume of oscillator 2, which is 23, so 23, 0. Let's play with the waveform of oscillator 1, which is 12. Go to 12, play the waveform. So there are your 16 waveforms. You can't blend between them like you can on something like a PPG. These are discrete waveforms. But unlike the PPG, we do have 2 oscillators that are completely independent. So 1 and 2. So on 1, we can have whatever we like. And on 2, we can have something else. Let's bring up the level of 2 again. So 23. And let's have on oscillator 2, I don't know, just another waveform. So oscillator 2 waveform, 22. So there's a tone that you couldn't do on a PPG because it's got 2 completely independent waveforms. There was things on the PPG you could do with the upper wavetable, and you can have one at one point in the wavetable, another at another, but you couldn't have completely independent oscillators like you can on this. So there's pros and cons to it, but for the 20% price, it was an absolutely staggeringly, amazingly good value thing for its day. But as you can tell, the interface is a little bit clunky. Other things about it, the keys are very rattly. So it doesn't feel like a top-end instrument. But to get over that, these days we have this wonderful little unit here. It's the DW-8P from Retroaktiv. This is the Mark II version. There was a Mark I. On the Mark II, we've got a few little additions. It's a class-compliant USB MIDI device, and it can be powered via the wall adapter or by USB MIDI. It's also got a larger screen. Its memory is expandable with a memory card that you can buy on their website. It's also got 2 sets of DIN in and outs. Uses a faster CPU that allows it to update software via USB. I've done that myself, so it does work. It adds polychain mode, and it's just got a better user interface all in all. It's got the more comprehensive modulation matrix, better graphics handling, and the patch generator is much better. I've been using that an awful lot. So for the rest of this demo, I'm going to be using the DW-8P rather than this particularly clunky interface. It's not as bad as something like the Juno 2 where you've got to spin the dial and try and land on the right parameter. At least you can just type in the parameter there. And once you start to use the parameters, you do get to grips with them. But when you look at this, you realize it's actually basically an analog synth with digital oscillators, which is obvious, I suppose, from most perspectives if you know these synths. But looking at the front panel here, it's not 100% obvious. And looking at this, you've got your filter envelope, your amp envelope, your VCF, you've got your oscillators. You've actually got a digital delay on this. I mentioned that in the intro that it came with a digital delay. It was the first on any synth, and obviously you've got access to the parameters really easily on here. We've also got aftertouch, and we've got a little LFO in there as well. So yeah, looking at this, you can see that it's a fairly simple analog synth at its heart, but it does have a couple of nice little tricks up its sleeve. If we look at the envelopes, for example, they're more complex than an ADSR. And this is from the manual, and we've got an attack, a decay 1, a breakpoint, a decay 2, a final sustain level, and a release time, which means there are sounds on this that you just can't make on other things. In fact, recently I did a video where I sampled the Waveshapes from this, put them in the Summit from Novation, and copied the tones really well. But there's some things you just can't do because it's got that nice little weird envelope in there. We do have an inverted envelope as well, which means you can get even more complex or interesting things. Nice, almost like a faux delay, isn't it? We've got this nice little glide effect on the pitch, which will glide up or down to a note. That's here with this ramp generator. Let's put it on oscillator 1. And we've got glide as well. So let's take that off for now. But to make it sound better, we've got the effects. If we go to the patch generator on this, we can make different types of sounds. I'll show all this in a second, but go to the init patch. That's the initial patch of the DW-8P. It's got 2 oscillators. They're both playing a sawtooth. You could detune one of them. Drop the cutoff down. Increase the release. Now we're into sounding nice territory. So let's add some delay there. So let's add some. In fact, if I pull this down, we can hear the delay better. That's up to ½ a second. Put some feedback in. We can modulate the decay of that. Change the mod rate. So you can do all sorts of weird, crazy things, but what this is really nice for is a chorus. If we drop the feedback down, the time down. Turn it off. The DW6000 that came before this had an analog chorus that was swapped over for this digital delay that you can do choruses with. And the eagle-eyed of you might have noticed that on the back there, that we're listening to this in stereo, but I'm actually recording it in mono, and there's a good reason for that. If we bring the time back up again and just listen to a delay, the stereo on this doesn't actually create a true stereo effect. It just creates an inverse polarity of the delayed signal. So if you add the delay in mono, you can't hear it at all. So let's just have a little play with that just to show you. So I'm not sure how this is going to work in the edit, but I'm now recording it in stereo. Now I'm listening to that on a mono speaker, so I can't hear that delay effect at all. I think there's something maybe. So if I put this recording now into mono, So there I'm just summing the two outputs and you completely get rid of all that effect. Which is why it's probably best to record this in mono at all times, rather than using a stereo output. It's not making any effect to what I can hear this. But I'm assuming it's doing all sorts of different things. Just a weird little anomaly. I thought it was worth showing, but I'll put it back into mono so I don't mess it all up. So I'm trying to see if there's anything else I've not showed you about the DW-8000. DW-8000 is obviously an update from the DW-6000. This has got more wave shapes. It's got 16 wave shapes as opposed to the 8, I think it was in the DW-6000. It's got 8 voices, not 6. This has got the digital delay, not the analog chorus. So there's more to do on this, but this does work with the DW-6000. But yeah, you can see it's basically an analog synth, 2 oscillator analog synth, but it's got digital oscillators, if that makes sense. So let's just change some of the waves. Let's try and get something that you couldn't do on a Juno like this. And if we have a listen to the waves, they're all based on instruments actually. So if we put this up like this, bring that down. Can't remember what they all are, so I've got the manual out. Sawtooth, it says strings and analog synthesizers, clarinet and analog synthesizers. For this has got the same harmonics as a square, as you can see, and the sawtooth has the same harmonics as a sawtooth. Doesn't look like a square, but it is. Acoustic piano. Yeah, piano-ish, isn't it? Go to electric piano next. Let's drop oscillator 2 out. Another electric piano coming up. A little bit long there on the whole decay. So organ. We can also just turn this knob to go to the next one. Brass, sax. Violin. Yeah, you need to play with the envelopes to get them sounding like they would. These waves aren't samples, by the way. They're created, I think, algorithmically, like additive synthesis sort of thing. So put that away for a second. And yeah, just kick off again. So wave, wave. Bring that down. So we can detune in various ways on oscillator 2. Got different intervals. Let's bring it in. Major third, fourth. Detuned octave, major third again, an octave higher. High frequency, and that's very high. You can hear that squeaking up there. And then high frequency 2. Even higher and quieter. Can't hear it just about. And then low frequency, which is very low. Which I've no idea what the relationship is to the original note, but it's there. We've got unison. We can detune a fair amount. So this is just how you build sounds on this. Same as you would on pretty much any analog synth, but you've got a choice of 16 oscillators. Which means you've got loads more choice. and you can create lots of different types of tones. So that's the DW-8000, that's how it works. We've also got an Arpeggiator on here. Put that on. Really simple thing, but it's just nice to have. And I don't think I've missed anything out except for maybe the poly modes and the unison modes. We've got them on here as well. If we go into keyboard mode, go back into the main page. Oops, main page. Hit the right button. Key mode, poly 2, unison, and unison 2. And you can see this is changing over here. Unison doesn't really give us. Let's go back into patch generator and put on the initial sound again. You can hear there with the unison. We don't have unison detune, so it's not a great unison machine. That's not really going to scare an Oberheim, is it? It's a bit like Juno, it reminds me of. Anyway, let's go back to the main page. Into here now, we can load programs, we can load banks, and we can load assign modes. I'll show you what the assign is in a second. But we've got 4 banks in here. There was a memory upgrade. I think it was the EX, wasn't the EX? It was anyway. There's a little box you can buy for this. It's about £150 used, and it gives you 4 banks, which you've got 4 banks in here anyway. I'm going to load a program into bank 1, enter, and then here we go. These are from Espen Craft, and they come with the DW-8P. Hear the glide in there. Some lovely tones you can get out of this. Just press enter. We've got 4 banks of 64. Let's find something in random. Jump to the hills, or jump the hills, is that? It's jump. If only I could remember how to play it. Anyway, filthy clean. It's nice. Sounds like it's using that ramp generator again. But if we come out of this, go back into the main storage, we've got, whoops, bank 2. Enter. So a whole new 64 patches in there, old strings. Nice. Rampy lead. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that you can store 4 banks in there. If we come back again, bank 2, bank 3, and bank 4, let's go into there. So bank 4, this is from this machine itself. You can just load in the banks via the MIDI pages. So MIDI pages, you can have 1 or 2 instruments on this. You can have 2 of these. In another video, I'll put 2 of them together and create a fake Super 8 from Udo. MIDI, so the second unit was off, and then poly modes, and then we can receive from DW-8000, we could send to the DW-8000, stuff like that, which is how I've got this patch bank here. So back to the main page, storage, enter. So as I say, these are from this machine itself. Whoever had this before me liked the brass and the strings. The first few patches on this are actually very similar. You'll notice it just says DW-8000 program 123 because you can't store names in the machine itself. So if you come back out of there and just go back into storage for a second, we can load or we can store, and we've got different objects. So we've got a program, the setup of the whole machine, and the assign modes and CC map. So you can store a CC map and you can use this to control pretty much anything you want. And then the effects presets as well, which is quite cool. But we'll look at the assign now because this is really cool. So I've not saved any yet. Let's go back to an initial patch. So we'll go to the patch generator. Initial sound. So what I want to do is I want to modulate, using these assigns here, I'm going to modulate or control the LFO rate and the amount of modulation going to the VCF. So what I'm going to do, if I go into assign, and I want to assign this controller to both these controllers here, and we can assign amount to that. So if I come down to here, hit assign, and then change that, we've got a maximum, a minimum. So I want to take it all the way to that much. When I move this, and it's normal, not inverted, you can have it upside down if you want. And then I'll go to 2. And yeah, MG rate, I'll do it again. I've done it previously, you can tell there because I've been practicing. So modulation rate right to the top and pretty low as well. So I've got that inverted. So as I come down, the amount of modulation is going down, but the modulation is speeding up. Let's take that off invert. So now it will speed up as I push it higher. And you can have up to 5 different controllers or 5 different parameters on each of the assigns. You've got 2 assigns here, and you can assign MIDI CC. So if you've got another controller, you can control these. You control all the parameters with MIDI CCs as well through this. It just brings out all the functions of the DW-8000 really well. We come to the MIDI pages, click through them. We come to this chord mode page, and I love a chord mode. The eagle-eyed of you may notice that I've added an extra MIDI, and that's the MIDI out. So when I play a note, this knows what to play. Chord mode, we'll put it on. Let's turn it down a bit. So you can set your chord mode by just changing the notes. So let's put a lower one in there, -12. Or you can hold shift and then you can play them. you know, a bit like the Retroaktiv one I've got for the Juno 2. This just really brings out what you can do with the synth, and you wish it had all the knobs. The first time you pick the synth up. Yeah, loads of fun. And what else is loads of fun is the patch generator. I'll just take chord mode off for now. Another nice little touch on this, I've showed it a few times so far, is this patch generator, and it will randomly or automatically generate pads. We've got different categories in there, but bells, electric pianos, organs, pads, polysynth, strings, brass, effects, the initial sound which you've seen before, and random, which is just any old thing really. But if we go to, I don't know, let's go to bells, shall we? We've got subcategories in here as well, but let's just go to all subcategories on bells. There you go, that's a bell. Try another one. Subcategories on bells. Bell 1, analog bell. Or what's that? It's like bell 1. Cool. Pads, or well, electric piano. Let's try that. That's a very wobbly sounding electric piano. Or we go into EP1, analog or clav. Let's go to EP1. Nice. Analog electric piano. Cool. You get the idea on this. Organs. Let's go to pads. It's always given me great pads, this. That's nice. Different categories. No mod. Res pad. Should we try a res pad? A reso pad? That's a reso pad. Syn rocks. Yeah. So just a really nice, clever idea. Oops. They all have this, all the Retroaktiv again. So if you're stuck for inspiration, there's always this, but it's all. I gotta say, they're not the best ones it's given me this. It's normally given me big lush ones, but try another. That's nice. Okay, should we do one more category? Let's go for what should we go for? Polysynths. Yeah, cool. So yeah, I really like that patch generator on there. Trying to think if there's anything else I've not really shown on this. I've shown how it all works, controlling the DW-8000 or the 6000. And yeah, I've been through the different patch storages, the assign modes. Oh yeah, we can have 2 synths on this, and we can control the crossfade between the 2 synths. But yeah, I'm going to do something with, I've got another one of these, a really old battered one. It wasn't old and battered when I bought it off eBay, but it was when it turned up. Should have sent it back really. But I'll put the 2 of them together and use them in binaural mode and do some fun stuff with that. But that's what this crossfade's for. But yeah, I think I've demoed just about everything I wanted to demo. So there you have it, the DW-8000 and the DW-8P. If you're going to get, or if you've got a DW-8000, I would absolutely highly suggest getting yourself a DW-8P, because it really does open up the synth in so many ways. These retroactive controllers are excellent. I love the patch generator on them. I love the fact that you can access all the parameters really simply, and the fact that you get loads of banks in there as well, so that you're not stuck with the 64 that you got on the DW-8000. So yeah, definitely check out the DW-8P Mark II. I recommend all these retroactive controllers. I've done a few videos on them now because I've got a few and because I think they're brilliant. So I hope you found that useful. It does work on the DW-6000 as well. I'm not sure if I've mentioned that yet in the video, but yeah, do check it out. And if you did enjoy that, please do subscribe, ring the bell, join me over on Patreon, all the rest of that sort of stuff. Check out my starskycar.com website, share the videos, all the usual stuff. And I hope that was of some use to somebody somewhere. And thanks very much for staying to the very end. And I will see you next time.